Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and I have a discussion series. And today we have a guest on, Mr. Marvin Lyman. Welcome, Marvin.
Thank you for having me, Carlos. Glad to be on Cascade Media.
Hey, Marvin. We're gonna talk about some real serious issues today. And as I tell people, so right off the top, that if we can't speak truth to power, you won't be coming back on any of Cascade Media shows because we have enough of that in the regular media, print and cable and internet, that are not speaking to the issues that are affecting uh, Black Americans, or I like to always say the diaspora, and everyone that's Black that's not in Africa are part of that diaspora. And I want to ask you, coming out the gate, do you think that we are getting good political representation nationally and locally for the progress that we have made over a half a century?
Absolutely not, because first, let's deal with the premise that we've made progress. So I am a student of Dr. Claude Anderson. First of all, he's one of my teachers and leaders. And so when you look at the wealth that we have in the Black community now, which is less than 0.5%, and what we had during slavery, when 100% of us were pretty much 100% of us were enslaved, then how can the wealth that we have now as a free people match the wealth that we had then as an enslaved people? So for me to say that we've made progress, to me, that's a misnomer. Now, you can say that we are not physically wearing chains, that we are not physically tied to a plantation to some extent, but hopefully we'll have time to come back to the plantation. You can say that, but in the scheme of things, when you look at the Black reality, we don't control our own schools in large part. We don't really, we say we control our businesses, but in large part, we don't control our own businesses. We don't control the media. You are one of the few that are an independent media source. When you look at our banking situation and our economics, we don't control that. And if you look at the struggle over the past 200 years or better, the struggle has been for civil rights and equal rights, but not for economic justice. And so where we are is in a dire economic situation where essentially we are not scheduled to recover from at all. So when we talk about progress, I come from that context.
All right.
This program is brought to you by Black Star Group.
Of us really know that damn story. I'm saying under the leadership of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party for Black people. I'm not interested in them damn parties, because neither one of those parties are serving the interests of Black people. And I'm getting down where the rubber meets the road. That on a national level, when you look at the Democratic Party in general, you have Black Democrats that keep bringing our whole community into, paraphrasing Martin, into a burning house. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are the same party. They the same bird with two wings. And who controls those parties are corporate companies. And so the what you were talking about was that economic agenda. And that is the world we live in, an economic world that everything, your worth is based on economics.
Right.
And what you pointed out, Black people don't have any economics.
In
Now
large
you
part,
say
no.
Dr. Claude Anderson is one of your mentors.
Mhm.
Dr. Anderson opened my damn eyes, like I was asleep too. But you
Mhm.
know what? They've squeezed him out because he's talking something that has solutions. We all know the problem, but the people that have solutions don't get the media time.
Right. So let's talk for a moment, because I want to tie back into your original question, and tie back into why Dr. Anderson was squeezed out. He was squeezed out because white folks didn't want to hear the truth, but he was also squeezed out because black folks wanted him to be more palatable. We have this false construct in our mind that somehow if we say things just the right way, in the right tone, with the right smile on our face, that somehow what this white racist system is going to somehow reply and say that, oh, we're sorry, we understand, we're going to make it right. Frederick Douglass said it best: power concedes nothing without a demand. So now let's tie it back to local politics. So if you think about, and this is not to beat down on any of our
Right.
black officials whatsoever.
It's what you see. You're black. Hold on. First of all, audience, we speaking truth to power, not because of our jobs, not because of anything except for we care for our community. The bottom 3/4 of black people in America are in the bottom poverty level, basically. And they don't have a voice because we don't have people that will speak straight like we're speaking here tonight.
Right. It's and so
Go ahead.
and so when you talk about our local officials, our local officials are not advocating a black agenda. It's always a diverse agenda. It's a minority agenda. Well, I woke up sometime March 15th, 1976. I didn't wake up as a diverse. I didn't wake up as a minority. I woke up as a black child, and I am now a 44-year-old black man living in a reality that says that it really doesn't want me to exist, right? So how can you have elected officials who are operating in the context of creating policy and implementing and enforcing policy that does not affect the black reality from a black perspective? And so that's where our leadership tends to fail, not just on the local level, but even on a regional level, and then also on the federal level. You have the Congressional Black Caucus. So a lot of people came out and they were upset about Kamala Harris and the crime bill, and they were and her enforcement of it in California. They were upset with Biden, but going back to the times that we lived in during it, we were in a state of chaos and fear created by systemic racism. And the answer we came up with was, hey, we've got to crack down and punish those who are violating our community and destroying our community and our people. And that's what we came up with. And the failure of the CBC is that the CBC has never really moved to a pro-black agenda to fully liberate black people economically, socially, spiritually, so forth and so on. If we do not attack this problem, if we do not attack our condition from a black perspective, nothing's going to change. But the people have to be made aware that, one, we're living a lie. We are locked into a plantation. I'm employed, and there are millions of other black folks that are employed. And unfortunately, most of us don't have conversations like this publicly, because if we do, then somebody might snitch on us and we get fired, or our employer may see what we're saying and not agree with it and say, well, you are not the best representative of the company, and we get fired. And ultimately our livelihood. So with me, the provision I provide for my wife and my children, our home, our transportation, food, so forth and so on, it's jeopardized. And so we've got to get to a place as a people to where we just say, hey, forget what any and everybody else thinks. We've got to deal with who we are as a people and how we move forward. And we have to stop thinking that elected officials are our leaders. They are not our leaders. Elected officials are employed by us. We need to start acting like their employer and make sure they're carrying out our agenda and not the agenda that they think is best for us, especially after they have been so ingrained by white systems of training and thought.
All right, hold it. You hit, boy. I don't even have to go into the subjects I was getting ready to go into with you, big boy. Check this out. When you say that, that's what I try to get our community to understand. Black politicians, white politicians, green politicians, when they get in office, the first thing they're going to do is make sure they're taking care of corporate America, because that, at the end of the day, most of the time is how they got in office, especially national office. Then what they're going to do is they're going to take care of themselves. And then they're going to take care of their constituents most of the time. If people don't want to hear that, that's how it works. I defy you to show me it works different. All right. Now, the most thing that the system fears is us linking together. I've given this 100 times. So audience, just think for a minute. I said, we invaded Iraq. They had a 1 million man army. Saddam said it's going to be the mother of all battles. Norman Schwarzkopf said, that's what you think, partner. First thing we're going to do is punch you in the mouth, and we're going to cut all your communications. That's the first act. We're going to bomb all your community. How are you going to talk to the 1 million men? We don't have no networks or no nothing really that we can use to our own voice. And when you do have, this is a perfect example in Kansas City. Cascade Media Group has been serving the Black community since '08. We have a Black superintendent, a Black school district, and they don't even do no advertisement with the only Black-owned digital media company. The same thing with Freedom Inc. The same thing with a lot of Black people in power, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the network. Nobody can't deny that we don't cover the Black community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why aren't your Black organizations? Why isn't the NAACP? Why isn't the Urban League doing marketing and putting their position on the Black network? That's not being talked about. And so how can you bring your community together when 26% of the get you elected? That's not the people's voice, because the people are disengaged, because over the last, for sure, quarter century, we have not, here in Kansas City, made any gains economically. And no one wants to point the finger. And so we have this vicious cycle. Would you agree or would you not agree?
I would agree. And again, you got to look at, who's running these organizations. And no disrespect to my elders, because those who know me know that I've sat at the foot of my elders and have most of my friends are much older than I am. And so I say this truthfully and respectfully to those who are willing to hear it, is that when you look at the generation of those who are running these organizations, they may have had a strategy at one time that was effective for that particular time, for that particular purpose. And now they're wanting to use the same strategy in a new era where that old strategy does not work any longer. And then because they are so dead set on using that age-old strategy or whatnot that worked back then they criticize folks like you, folks like me, folks like Brandon Ellington, and others who speak truth to power, and they say that somehow we are out of line. when in fact they are out of touch with the current reality of our condition. The other thing is this: you got to look at it. Then I look at it from their perspective, and I'm talking about the older generation. From their perspective, they're looking at everything that they did to achieve civil rights, and the last thing that they want to do is take that final rest and say that, man, my efforts may not have been the best in working towards civil rights. I should have been working for equity. I should have been working for economic justice, economic parity. I should have been working in that regard. And so there is I believe, a pride factor that doesn't want to that doesn't allow them to accept the truth that they know, that movement only led to a certain amount of progress, if you will. And so until we can get that generation to see the reins, if you will, and so into the younger generation and those folks who
hold it. Let me say this. You going a little diplomatic on them people. The hell with them people. You hear me? The hell with them people. As I said earlier, they had led us into a burning house, and it was all about economic gain for themselves. It's no other way to put it.
And I agree, because capitalism says that man relates to things. Afrocentricity says that man relates to people, and we relate to our God, that higher power that created us. And so we have a value for all, not a cell phone, not a dollar or a dime. We have a value for the living, for those things which our Father has created. And so there's a difference. And so you're right. Those folks adopted a mindset and have, in large part, transplanted that same mindset to me and others.
There you go.
As we value things. And so we've gotten so far from who we are as a genuine people. And again, going back to your original point, we don't have a consistent, widespread media that allows us to keep this conversation in the forefront of Black.
Right, for months if necessary. Because the mainstream media, what they do, they'll get on these subjects, but then they'll get off of them, and once the hoopla dies down.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.
And we don't need that. We need to be consistent about what we do. And the only thing that really should be making a difference, I'm on because this morning we were talking about how we are. This lady posted, baby, listen, fake friends are like 4 quarters. They'll change for $1. And that's how our community has been. The upper echelon.
Upper echelon, that's right.
Or am I wrong?
No, you're right. But so we've always, if you look at every slave insurrection in this country, you've always had some Black folks who were better off, who had the opportunity to maybe be free or get some type of better position than the regular slave, if you will, to sell us out. So that's nothing new.
Yeah, but you know what I say? People, it's not your fault, because Europeans have whitewashed history, and you don't have the time to think this out, because you're trying to provide milk on the table and pay your bills. Long conversations like this, I don't have the time to listen. I got other things I need to be doing. But that's the problem, because you don't have your own networks to have long conversations when you're not doing things that can affect how you react to your politicians, to your community organizations. And the first thing you have to look at and recognize that since you came out your mother's womb, you have been programmed. You go to European schools from kindergarten up. They are programming you how to behave in society. Who has power, who doesn't. You learn that the teacher has power. All right, over you. Then as you get older, you recognize there's people that have power over the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then you recognize they have power over whoever has that power. The ultimate where the buck stops is corporate America. And corporate America has power over your politicians. And the reason they have power over your politicians, because we live in a capitalist society, and everything that you have seen on media since you came out is designed for you to buy products that corporations make. And so they control the system. They control your water. They control your food. That's why you have to control your damn mouth. Because if you say the wrong thing, they'll can take the control that they have of your life and say, we're not going to control your life no more. You're out here by yourself. That's scary to most people. And so how can you look at having progress, systemic progress, which your politicians made the laws to make them rich, but you put them in the office, and these programs just let you know we've got to hold them accountable and say, if you dare to put anyone's interest before you put this community's interest, you won't be here but one term. And you cannot bring that home to their consciousness unless every week you're talking about their performance. And now I want to get on something serious. We talked about them parties. We only need a black party. We don't need a Republic. Anyone that is a person of color, you're in that party. Now you can start talking about using economic strength to change the dynamics of capitalism in the world, not just locally, in the favor of the diaspora. Figures, I'm throwing them out, but if we as Black people combined our wealth, we'd be the 7th wealthiest nation on. So that's a danger. That's a real danger. So people like me, my life's in danger. I want to make everybody aware of that.
Well, look
because
at Brother Gaddafi.
Because when you're trying to spread the truth and show you what's going on, they're not having that. They're not having that. So when we're having discussions like this, everybody is in danger because you're upsetting the system. And most of us have seen the Matrix. That's how life is. They use the police to get rid of little guys like me, and the CIA and the FBI and a bunch of dark hole things. For people like Gaddafi and those other people, they got the army. And that's like the Matrix. When you're not in line with these corporations, because they have you in bondage. And they have you in bondage because your leadership refused to think another way. Marvin talked about why they're stuck on 1950 and 60s ways of doing things. And I bet a dime to a dollar, most of them can't use none of the devices that are out besides a phone, just using the phone or what have you. And I run a damn digital media company and can't use them. I have to always go to my younger staff and say, how do you do this? So they're out of touch. I know I'm out of touch on a personal basis with all the devices. All the young people that are 40 and under, they grew up with this stuff basically.
Right.
And so we're on two different levels how we're looking at the world.
Yeah. So if we just look at it from a historical perspective, so if you look at how young King was when he started working in the as an activist, and you look at many of his peers that did not support him, but you look at the elders who, in large part, did not support King.
They were getting ready to throw Martin Luther King out of SCLC just before he got shot. I'm old enough to not read no history in the book. I remember the stuff coming, my parents and different people talking about it.
That's right. So if you listen to King's lectures, particularly those that he gave in '68 in California, whatnot, where he's talking about economic justice, he's talking about having a bank in, he's talking about buying black and having a pro-black agenda. This is not the King that we in large part were taught, or at least I was not taught about when I was a kid. I was taught, and I'll be honest with you real quick, I did not like Dr. King growing up as a kid. It wasn't until I got to high school and my teacher, Patricia Skaggs, she exposed me to more writings and speeches about Dr. King. And I began to learn that he was not this monolithic person that had been created by white media and fed to us from a child on. And so I say all of that to say this is that so real quick. So when you talked about political party, I don't agree with you there. I see where you're coming from and why, but I believe that the Black community needs alliances, but I believe we need parties, organizations, structure, and mobilization that is Black owned, Black thought, and clearly has a Black agenda. So one of my frames of reference there is Stokely Carmichael, Brother Kwame Ture, who told us to mobilize. So you've got folks that are part of organizations again, but they don't know how to mobilize the people.
Well, I'm not saying that. All I said is we're on the same page.
Yes, yes, Black. Sir.
And you know what, boy, I bring you on as my guest today, and you mentioned Stokely Carmichael. Okay. So this morning, I'm looking at like 80 pictures of Stokely Carmichael in different things. And I come up, I say, Carlos, what you need to do is just make a film clip, changing pictures, and just put that out and ask your audience, do you know who this man is? And leave it at that. And do that with Rap Brown and all these, I'm saying, and so all of that is not going to be done by white media. And they damn sure ain't going to do it free. I'm going to do it because I'm trying to enlighten my community.
Right. So let me say this. So here's what I honestly believe. I think that there has to be more grassroots efforts, even like your effort in building Cascade Media. It has been a grassroots effort. When that happens, then the people are coming along and they are creating their agenda, the agenda that we want as a people. And then we have to train up the folks who are going to be the elected officials within that group. What typically happens is those Black folks who are already a part of these organizations, they send their kids to college, they get more indoctrinated with Eurocentric thinking and education and so forth. And then when they come back, they have this nepotistic mindset that says that I'm next in line. And unfortunately, I'm next in line means I'm next for position and prestige and power, not I'm next to represent the interests of the people. And so they literally have spent no time getting to understand and know the needs of those who they are elected to serve.
They haven't spent no time like Brandon Ellington, I'll tell you that damn for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's how our politicians, the Stokeleys and the Carloses and the Rap Brown, and when you even go into hip hop, Chuck D and they were talking about the community, the gutter that they grew up in.
That's right.
And then when they get up, they reach back, but the European mindset has, you done got all these degrees to know what to say and what not to say so you can keep those jobs. Right. And I'm not blaming them, no. Hold it, let me say this.
I agree. I'm
not blaming them, but what I am putting the blame on when people like Black companies like mine are speaking on the community's behalf, the truth, and you know it's the truth, and you don't try to support them economically? How the hell Trump get in? Breitbart, Fox 4 News.
But even if they don't support you, Carlos, they should shut the hell up.
All right.
If they don't support you financially, shut the hell up. Let you do your thing, because you're working towards the liberation of Black people. And if I know that you're working towards our liberation, even if I disagree with the method, like I just told you, I disagreed with the method a few moments ago, I'm not going to talk bad about my brother. I'm not going to tear him down. I'm going to let him do what he does, because it is ultimately, if what you do works to liberate us, then I'm all for it. I may not think it's the best way, but who am I to jump in the way? And that is the problem that we have with these folks who go and get this education. But if you look at folks like Kwame Ture, if you look at Huey Newton, these brothers, Kathleen Cleaver, these brothers and sisters, they were highly educated, but they learned how to take that education of the system to make it work in terms of developing policies and programs that would enable and empower our people. That's what makes Brandon Ellington so powerful. He may not have the illustrious education, but he does have that street education, and he has that on-the-job training.
Let me tell you this. I'm gonna interrupt you. This just came to my attention, because let's talk truthful about Brandon and how even Black people view him to a degree. Mm-hmm. Like he's street, or he's less than the upper crust of our community. Well, what you're really looking at is Black people. When you're looking at Brandon Ellington,
absolutely,
you're looking at how we do things in our community.
Absolutely.
We're not talking in a way that we're thinking about your feelings, white community, to a degree. Mm-hmm. We're being ourselves. This is how we grew up. The things that he's doing now seem strange, but when I was growing up, I did my neighbor's yard. My grandmother made me do the crap.
That's right.
I ain't have no damn choice, you know.
And didn't get no allowance for it.
Allowance? All right. Yeah. All right. Wait on that. You better hope that you can get some of that cheese that the government has given us. You know, and so I think we have forgotten, you know, people say, Carlos, why do you be saying we came from the gutter? I be like, well, where did we come from? Which one of your parents had something? We all started at the same place, and we haven't gone too far. You might be at the front of the bus, but you're still in that same bus with me and the rest of the Black community, but you be thinking that you're not. But the situation we find ourselves in America, I don't think Black people understand that white people in general, and I'm going to speak for you, I think you have these sentiments. We have nothing against the white community. We want to work with you, really, but the Black community's house is on fire, and we're trying to tend to that. We can't tend to you until we get our own community together. And we can't get our own community. Another reason I have you on is because you understand that the economics are the major part of bringing and breaking the chains.
Right. And if you're on a plane, Carlos, and we all get on the, you know, those of us who are able, we've been on planes, and they're given the instructions. The first thing they tell you that if that mask drops from the ceiling, they say, put your mask on first. They don't say put it on your wife, your grandmother, your husband.
Even the baby. They don't even say the baby.
They say put yours on first. It's only a problem in America when Black people say that we're going to focus on us first, that they somehow feel excluded. And then you have Black apologetics.
Apologetic, right.
that will say, well, no, we can't say that. We got to say all lives matter. Well, just because I say Black Lives Matter, just because I say that my issue is important, guess what? That doesn't mean yours is not important, but it means I have the right to focus on my issue in my community. And this country owes my community that attention and the reparations that are due to us now and have been due. And so we've got to get to a point again where we're not apologetic and where we have leaders. You were talking about Brandon and how he speaks and represents us. I love Brandon because Brandon, he will talk when he's representing.
He's intelligent as hell.
Super intelligent, and he'll say some words and misspeak a word or make up a word or whatever. But in all of that Black English, guess what? We understand exactly what the brother's saying. So I have no problem with how he delivers the message and the way that he states things. What I have a problem with from our community is our refusal to embrace and support him and say, hey, this is what we need. This is what we
see. You have that problem. But again, let's go back to what I said, the premise that we have been indoctrinated.
We've been trained. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm saying, and what I've, in all my programs, I defy any Black person that's looking at this to say that they have not been indoctrinated.
Absolutely.
And so when you're thinking negative things about your brother, just think, hey, why am I thinking this? He's Black just like me. He's in the same situation. And if I have some conversation with him, we might can come together because you might be, like we talked earlier, you can't say something because you'll lose your job, but you're on my team. But if I don't really know you on my team, then I'm constantly sniping at you. And they have us where when we get in the room with one another, because of the economic characters there, we're trying to figure how we can position ourselves to use the opportunity to build, for lack of better words, build our cake, build our stack of people or our money and what have you. And what we don't understand, who created this hierarchy system that comes really from Europe, this rank factor and the proximity to power. When we start moving out in these neighborhoods, I look at some Black people, they be like, I'm the only person out here. I'd be like, oh, you proud of that?
Right.
Oh, you really? But see, nobody will say that. They'll be like, oh, that's nice. Then on this economic thing, then I'm gonna shut up, let you talk, and we're gonna close out on this economic thing. All you Black Negroes that have economics on your mind and you honor Harriet Tubman, if she was to say, can't get on this railroad unless you got a fare. This is the fare. See where you'd be then. When you're thinking only economics, you can't free yourself. You've got to think about your people. In the story, you got the floor, doctor.
Well, listen, again, thanks, Carlos. What I want to share here is that, one, we got to have that cooperative mindset. That is an Afrocentric way of thinking where, again, we're valuing each other and we're not overvaluing things. The other thing that we need to have in mind is that in the 70s, Kwame Ture, he led an initiative with Black organizations across the world. And it was basically, it was a Pan-African movement. And what they were saying was, hey, we won't criticize each other. All it took was one little action for that movement to be infiltrated, for one organization to say one bad thing publicly about another, and then that whole thing began to unravel. We've got to get to the point where, and I'm not saying that we don't call out folks that are working against us. We definitely have to do that, because for too long we've had people in positions, people in seats of power that look like us but don't represent us, and they design and enforce and keep policy in place that negatively affects us. We got to call them out. The other thing is this. Third thing is we've got to create an economic floor. How do we create an economic floor? If you don't hear nothing else, hear this today. Buy some land.
This is brought to you by Africana Art.
In parcel. And I'm not talking about a grave plot either. I'm talking buy some land, something that you own. The only real asset is where yo can set. That's what somebody told me a long time ago, and that is the
They're
truth.
not making no more of that.
Not making no more land.
And listen, you know, when I had my construction company, you could buy lots down there on Vine. This was back in '80 for $25.
I believe it. I believe it.
$50. I bought a duplex for $1,500. But the key is you got to be able to hold on to it.
Got to be able to hold it.
You know the things that B-Wise and them go through. You have the land, now the taxes. The taxes
and take grass cutting,
and
upkeep.
So when we don't have the economics, we can't really do no long range planning.
But if we work cooperatively, if we take our nickels and our dimes and we put them together, they will add up to that dollar. And then we take those dollars and put them with the $5 and the $10, they'll add up to hundreds and so forth and so on to the thousands. All we need to do is to work together. It can't be, you look at our collective, you talked about us being the 7th wealthiest nation or whatnot, if we were to pool our resources. When you look at us, at Black people as a whole, that is the absolute truth. Systemic racism, and this is not me calculating it, this is the National U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Systemic racism costs the American economy over $1 trillion per year in lost productivity, all because the system works against our companies. So imagine if we work cooperatively to create our own, to purchase our own from our own, and to support our people. That's how we create that economic floor. And again, we got to begin training those folks who are going to be the elected officials. Because if we, while also working within our community to create our own system of government that is governed by truth and justice. If we do that, have those parallel systems, then of course we will have the people that when they go outside of the community, they know that what's already been seeded in them is truth and justice. So they have that moral compass. And so those are some of the things that I believe that we have to do. Again, these views don't represent the entity I work for, but they do represent Marvin L. Layman for sure.
All right, Marvin. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And I plan to bring you back on. I must say, I had to look at myself. I'll give another example. How to all, we got 170,000 Blacks in this city. How does a Leon supermarket go out of business, and when we all buy groceries? And when I looked at that, I got a little leeway, but really I didn't, because I lived over in that area at one time, right behind them, and I didn't have. I would walk to the store, walk there. That's not there no more. Those people don't have that no more. So I'm going to leave with this. When I bring that, I say, how could that happen? I know I didn't shop there like I should have after I wasn't in that area. And when I posed at the Blacks, they were like, well, he might have mismanaged his money. Then there's some other people that are close to you. They say, well, I went in there and the meat was smelling this way or that way. And what I said to them, the same thing I would have to say to myself. If all of us were shopping there, he probably have about 8 stores, and the meat would be, he probably have cattle out back butchering them.
Right.
But when you don't have the economics, you're dealing with a price chopper, you're dealing with this and dealing with that. And we'll go to everybody but our own. And until we realize and take ownership of what we're doing physically versus what's coming out our mouth.
Yeah. Let me jump in here. I know you're trying to close it down, but
we own this shit.
Yes.
We ain't got to never close it down. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. So real quick. So we're thinking about the shoppers, those people who are going and patronizing Leon's Thriftway. Papa Lou's was my family restaurant.
Because I knew your damn daddy. I used to go down there all the time.
All right. And I'm not responsible for your cholesterol either. So
I don't care. I gotta have
it. So we had a deal where there were some things we bought through Leon's Thriftway. And for example, they cut our pork chops up the way that we needed them and whatnot. So we got a lot of that stuff from them. And so that was at a minimum about $40,000 worth of business from Papa Lou's to Leon's Thriftway right then. When Papa Lou's shut its doors, that was $40,000 crossed off of their bottom line instantly in terms of revenue. So just think about that. One business was bringing 40 grand, at least 40 grand per year in revenue to Leon's Thriftway. And so you say, so I posted this the other day on Facebook. The number one reason businesses fail is not because of the lack of money. It's the lack of customers. That's a universal principle for any business. So now when you take our people who decide to not be our customers at our businesses, it makes it even that much harder. Because I guarantee you, if 10% or 5% of the 170,000 people, Black folks in Kansas City, shopped at Leon's, their buying power would be greater, which would make their prices come down. So the prices would be lower and they could be just as competitive as these other chains who got a 400-year head start. And I'll leave it at that.
Hold it. I just told you how they valued my company at 12 million at a high to about a 6 million at a low. But we don't see value in doing business with our own. And I illustrated that, calling them out again on closing. Dr. Bedell at the Kansas City School District, the Urban League, Freedom Inc., SCLC, and any of them other Black organizations. I challenge you to say you did any of them locally more than what Cascade Media has done over the last, since 2008, in representing our community in every facet. I challenge anyone that listens to this to say it's not so. And we did it without financial support from any of them organizations. Now I'm going to leave this very calmly with, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.